In a world where technology is transforming every aspect of our lives, healthcare stands at the forefront of change. From AI-driven diagnostics to digital therapeutics, from mental wellness to portable labs, India's boldest innovations are redefining the future of care. To foster innovations, transformative ideas, and to celebrate the transformation of the healthcare sector, CNBC-TV18 in partnership with Optum India launched the HealthX Elevate, an initiative to spotlight startups that are turning ideas into impact and redefining how healthcare is accessed, delivered, and scaled across India. HealthX Elevate brought together industry leaders, government representatives, and technology experts to shape the next era of accessible, data-driven, and human-centered healthcare. This is a celebration of the collective vision of innovation that inspires, collaboration that empowers, and ideas that truly elevate healthcare for all.
Kickstart the proceedings for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have a very power-packed panel that promises to have a very riveting conversation exploring how startups can scale innovation to create real change to healthcare delivery and access. Join me in welcoming CNBC TV18's Ekta Batra, who in fact will be moderating this session for us. Ekta, good to have you with us. She in fact will be steering this entire conversation for us, which, as I said, is very, very aptly titled From Idea to Impact, Driving Scalable Innovation in Healthcare Solutions.
What a great way to start today's proceedings with such a power-packed panel. We have ideas coming in from different thought leaders within the pharmaceutical space and the healthcare space, rather. We're going to basically discuss what it really takes to move from a promising idea to a solution which really impacts and changes lives. Gentlemen, welcome to this discussion. Well, Sunil, I'm going to kick off the conversation with you. Today, we have a lot of startups which are here from the healthcare space. They want to basically understand what works while trying to make a change as well. So that's the first question. What is an investable idea, according to you, when it comes to healthcare? What do you think is, a promising seed, but which probably has scale and can probably get the profits as well?
When we talk about new age healthcare, what we as investors look for are models that are actually solving for must-have problems. And this could be different from Western market. We're talking about India as part of our landscape. The idea and the model has to solve for must-have problems. Second, it should quickly come out with a real-world validation in terms of acceptability. The third aspect that we look at is that can it get integrated in the existing ecosystem of healthcare? And last is, can it be repeated across different settings, which is urban, tier 2, tier 3 cities, primary healthcare, community healthcare. Because in India, we're dealing with the challenge of access, affordability, and quality. And if you have to bring this iron triangle together, you have to scale it to a point where unit economics start to sort of contribute, at the profit level.
Well, Prashant and Gaurav, you all are at the forefront of this, of preventive health at this point in time. And Prashant, I'm going to start with you. Your journey has been a lot about diagnostics, a lot about preventive health. So give us a sense in terms of the inflection points that you had when you had to scale up your business, and maybe the key challenges that you can share with all the healthcare startup founders here.
I think, we went through multiple stages, multiple inflection points, and I can talk through some of them as part of our journey, right? One of the first
maybe your top three.
First inflection points was the reality that healthcare data is not easily available. And if you're training large AI models, you have to get access to data. Figuring out that how do you partner with hospitals, how do you have the right commercial partnerships to get that data and to build AI on was one of the inflection points. A second inflection point, I would say, was also the regulatory aspect. I mean, when we sort of started commercializing, we thought our markets initially, we said we'll focus on the Western markets, US and UK specifically. And to sort of sell your products in those markets, especially in diagnostics, AI in diagnostics, everything is regulated. So you have to get through FDA clearance. And as an Indian company, we found it hard to figure out how to get those clearances. And it took us almost 3.5 years to figure out our first FDA clearance. Today we have 20. And the third thing is also, I mean, in this journey, right, like I was saying, we thought we'll focus on the Western markets. But interestingly, one of the problems that we sort of solved was around detection of TB on a chest X-ray. And that is not a Western problem, that is not a US, UK problem, that's very much a low and middle income country problem.
Gaurav, I wanted to come to you now. Preventive health is something that we've already spoken about, but you have mentioned that it's very important for businesses to not get swayed and to focus on their core competencies as well. Not go for every shiny idea that they see. So is that what Tata 1mg has done throughout, stuck to their core competency? And even when maybe there is an attractive AI idea, you sort of rethink it because it probably doesn't fit in with your core. And would that be something that you recommend to a lot of these startups?
First of all, thank you for having me. And I think if you talk to our board, then they would completely disagree with you, and they would say that we've gone after every shiny idea we could lay our eyes on and hands on. But on a more serious note, I think we got very lucky that when 1mg started as a medicine content engine, and it was an accident, a serendipity, because unlike the West, India has branded generics. For every medicine that we have discovered, invented, we have hundreds of brands that get proliferated in the ecosystem through a variety of incentive schemes that get created. Unlike the West, we also don't have pharmacists who can educate a consumer about, what this medicine is about, how you're supposed to take it, what's the side effects, etc. And that was the core sort of wedge we identified, or not even identified. That was the core thought process that we had, that hey, someone should educate consumers about this, because we thought education is one of the core pillars for better healthcare.
Well, Vijay, you're seeing this from a global lens as well. You have a bird's eye view, really, of what's happening in terms of Indian health tech vis-a-vis what's happening in the globe as well. Where is India when it comes to innovation in terms of health technology and as well as AI, as compared to whatever you see, or how we could probably benchmark ourselves?
I think it's not about the newness of the innovation. Almost everyone is tackling the same problems now. It feels like the world is caught up, generally. And specifically to your point about where India sits, I think it's right up there. And what I mean by that is something that really came to mind when I was thinking about this panel and speaking to these gentlemen earlier, was that the Western markets have been building with a lot of challenges facing them, a lot of deeply ingrained healthcare IT infrastructure companies that have made it harder to scale and harder to innovate and get to patients and reiterate and learn from those. And you've had that freedom here where you haven't had that burden or legacy, which means that you've been able to innovate very quickly using modern platforms, a more consumer-centered, very patient-centric design. And so a lot of the companies I'm seeing nowadays from an investment perspective have sort of leapfrogged a lot of the technologies and are designing solutions that are way more innovative in certain aspects. Now, there's a lot of challenges with everything that I've just said. It doesn't mean that it's easier to scale or commercialize or go international, but from an AI talent perspective, it's right up there.
Quick last round of brief answers from you all gentlemen. Gaurav, I'm going to start with you. If you have to give one brief piece of advice to all of the startup companies here, what would it be?
I think India requires physical and digital to come together. It's probably unique in that sense. We are big believers in it, so think of how you can serve customers both physically and digitally.
All right, Prashant, your advice.
You have to understand the domain really well. You talk to a data scientist, they'll be able to read X-rays better than most radiologists, and they have spent so much time reading X-rays, right? So you have to understand the domain really, really well, and that is how you'll solve a healthcare problem.
All right, Vijay?
I'm going to steal yours and say unit economics, just really deep understanding on the unit economics of your business model. That has to be the core.
And Sunil?
That was my thing, but since Vijay...
I'll ask you a question.
Vijay,
Are you looking, what kind of returns are you looking for from these health tech startups? And what is the time frame?
we always go for multi-baggers and unicorns. So let me give you that answer. But coming back to the previous one, generally what we try and tell them beyond unit economics is the real market is beyond your lab. because most of the startups that we come across are in an urban setting, are in the best of the institutions. They forget that the real market is beyond the city that we are living in, that we are incubating our companies in. So they need to go to that market. So that's the punchline.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining in and giving us your deep insights in this space. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
HealthX Elevate saw massive participation from various startups from across the country. During the event, Shishir Kumar, Senior Director and Global Capacity Lead, Healthcare and Life Sciences at Optum Advisory, explained the evaluation framework for selecting the HealthX Elevate Startups batch of 2025. A key highlight at the event was the Startup Spotlight segment, where the 10 startups presented their innovations and ideas to the august audience, giving insights about their organizations and answering questions put forward by some key dignitaries and audience members.
Ladies and gentlemen, with a huge round of applause, join me in welcoming our next speaker, who in fact will be in conversation with CNBC-TV18's Ashmit Kumar. But with a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Abhishek Singh, Director, General National Informatics Center, Additional Secretary METI, and CEO, Indian AI Mission, to really talk about what's really happening and what the future looks like. And we have our lovely moderator, CNBC TV18's Ashmit Kumar as well. Gentlemen, good to have you with us. Ashmit, the floor is all yours.
I'll begin, sir, with a small anecdote. I'm not taking names here just for purposes of privacy, but a senior government functionary that you work very closely with had a recent health scare. And in the course of that health scare, this gentleman, the senior government official, had gone to the doctor. The doctor had done a CT scan. The CT scan had yielded results which were put on a CD, a disk. That disk was then taken to a Bengaluru-based startup. And then using AI, they had scanned the results of the CT examination. And very interestingly, they found anomalies which the CT scan had missed, which made for a completely different form of treatment by the doctor. Is this the future, sir, that we're looking at? An AI-enabled healthcare future that could yield results in this shape?
See, there are many use cases in which there are AI applications which are coming out with outcomes and results which are better than or equal to a normal specialist or a doctor. I would not say in all cases, but yes, just like if you have, so for example, radiologists. There are different levels of radiologists across, and sometimes you get one opinion and the radiologist concludes for some outcome, and then normally many hospitals, many doctors always advise you to take a second opinion. And then you go to another hospital, take maybe a superior hospital or a super specialty hospital, you get a second opinion and you get a different outcome. So outcomes can vary based on the experience and based on the expertise of the concerned doctor. What AI models is doing, that since they are relying on being trained by data from multiple sources, so over a period of time, many of these AI models, especially for diseases like tuberculosis or in some instances of cancer, their collective expertise is becoming a sigma of the expertise of all other radiologists whose data they have looked into it. So in some cases like ICMR and CDSO has approved some diagnostic protocols wherein AI bots can be used for diagnosing those diseases. So in some cases, like in the case of tuberculosis and some ailments, the AI generated outcomes might be better than some of the radiologists. Not all, but in some cases it will be.
That's very interesting to hear, and this is where I actually want to bring in some of the experience that you have working with a lot of people within the startup community. As a part of the AI mission, you're engaged with numerous startups. You're speaking to a number of stakeholders, founders, investors. Can you tell us, can you give us some indication that this AI-led healthcare journey is headed towards, gauging from your experience working with the startup ecosystem?
Like when you look at use cases and when you look at applications wherein AI will create a lot of value, AI will benefit a lot of people, healthcare is one of them. And apart from diagnostic, apart from identifying what ailments are there, what possible scenarios can emerge, AI can also play a big role in in preventive healthcare. Very often, many deaths in India are caused because people don't have access to basic information. Like, for example, we do hear numbers of people dying of something as simple as diarrhea. And that happens because people who are suffering, sometimes they don't even have access to basic healthcare or a specialist who can tell them what to do. And the solution for that is very simple. So if such solutions can be done through an NLP-based, voice-based system wherein people could just ask a bot or call a toll-free number and give a query in their mother tongue and get a reply back, it can be a game-changer thing.
Just using that as an indicator, how much of an acceptance this transition between developing the solution and actually implementing the solution at scale, how big of a gap is that? How do we do that?
Again, while there are a lot of people who are using it for all kinds of purposes, and even for mental health and therapist jobs are also being kind of taken up by some of these bots. But at the same time, we also have to be a bit cautious with regard to how much we depend on them. Because most models are also known to throw up responses which might not be totally correct, or in some cases, do not conform to the law of the land. One simple example is that, for example, in India, pre-birth sex determination is banned by law. It's not allowed. But I have come across models which are currently available on which if you upload the ultrasound image of a expecting mother, the model tells you the gender of the child which is to be born. So in a way, those models which are not having safeguards built to abide by the law are not only violating the law, but can result in reversing a lot of gains that we have made on female infanticide and other issues. Similarly, for some ailments, the model may give you responses which might not be totally correct. So we do need to be very cautious. We do need to ensure that only those applications are actually rolled out, or those applications are deployed at scale, which are certified by the health practices, by the health expert, by the health regulator, whether it's the Central Drug Control Authority or the ICMR or Ministry of Health. They need to kind of say for what purposes it can be used, what purpose it cannot be used, and one has to be very, very cautious when we are deploying that. Those which have been tested, certified, can be deployed and used. It's nothing different than the way treatment protocols are approved or medicines or vaccines are approved. It's just like a technology which is similar to the technology for developing a drug or developing a treatment protocol, and it can be deployed only when a concerned regulator has approved it. So before deployment, before scaling it up, these precautions are also as necessary as going gaga over the power of these solutions.
Let's steer back to the healthcare space. One gap that you see in the healthcare innovation space, and how do we address that gap? How do we fill that gap?
See, like the level of trust that people can have in these systems. Like, for example, in the entire healthcare ecosystem, what we find, especially in the tier 2, tier 3 cities and rural areas, like very often people have more trust in the chemist which gives the medicines rather than the consultant who prescribes the medicines. And we have come across, people say that dawa to yahi de raha hai, wo consultant kis liye fees le raha hai. So similarly, when we are building in tech innovations, we have to try to position the value AI applications are doing in the entire health ecosystem. And when people are made more aware of that, that would result in more utilization of them. And the second thing that will be required is that the regulatory framework for ensuring that health applications are properly tested and they conform to the responsible AI principles in healthcare, we need to do. RBI recently came out with a free AI report for responsible AI framework in financial sector. So similarly in healthcare also, maybe we'll need to come out with a framework which will ensure responsible, ethical, safe and trustworthy deployment of AI. So that's one gap that is there which we need to address.
You think the acceptance of technology, we have one of the largest telecom markets here. There's a great digital divide that has been covered over the last few years. You think that acceptance, like you said, there is more trust in a local dispensary, a local chemist than there is on trained technology. You think that gap can be bridged using technology alone, or are there other inputs that are required, say perhaps from the government or from the private sector?
I think given the example of the way technology has been embraced by India, like for example UPI, there's an absolute level of trust of people in UPI. Even when a vegetable vendor hears that 20 rupees prapt hue, or he sees a tick mark on his phone, he knows that the money has the same level of confidence of money coming in his bank account as otherwise he will feel a 20 rupee note or a 100 rupee note. So it's, the trust has been established with the lowest section of the society with UPI. And if that can happen, similar thing can surely happen in healthcare, provided we build it in such a way that all concerns of unethical usage or responsible usage is also addressed.
But that's all the time that we have, Mr. Singh. I'd like to thank you once again for being a part of this conversation, and we wish you the very best on this India AI journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashmit.
From bold ideas to breakthrough innovations, from visionaries to changemakers, CNBC-TV18's HealthX Elevate, in partnership with Optum India, has been a journey of inspiration, collaboration and impact. The initiative brought together India's brightest health tech startups that are redefining healthcare, making care smarter, more inclusive and more connected than ever before. Government leaders, industry experts and tech giants came together to champion one shared goal: to build a healthcare ecosystem that is data-driven, accessible and human at heart.
Ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree when I say this, that we've seen innovation from the ground up. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to hear from a leader who's helping shape the larger vision of healthcare transformation. With a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Uma Ratnam Krishnan, the Managing Director at Optum India, to deliver and join us for a very special address. Please do join us, ma'am. Very good to have you with us.
This gathering is more than an event. It is a platform. It is a movement driven by shared purpose to elevate the health outcomes for everyone. At Optum, which is part of United Health Group, our mission is to help people live healthier lives and make the health system work better for everyone. Today's showcase, what we just saw and witnessed from the HealthX Elevate startups, is a testament to India's innovation potential. These startups are not just launching products. They are creating true outcomes. They're presenting visions which solve real-world problems with creativity, empathy, and scale. From AI-powered diagnostics to tech-enabled care delivery, the range and diversity of the ideas we saw were simply stunning. What, however, stands out is their clarity of purpose to actually help people live healthier lives. We must reimagine Indian healthcare, not just as a system of treatment, making it better, but actually as a platform for equity, empowerment, and wellness. We saw the possibility of somebody from a village in the Northeast being able to access immediate healthcare through telemedicine. AI could potentially predict outbreaks even before we know about it. That's not fantasy, that's pretty much reality. This isn't a dream. Let's move from reactive, hospital-centric healthcare to a much more proactive, patient-first kind of care. I'd like to end by saying healthcare is not just a sector, it's a social commitment. Let's align the policies and the incentives to reward better clinical outcomes and better patient experience. We are investing in digital infrastructure. Let's train our clinicians in responsible AI, and let's empower these brilliant startups that we heard and the many more to come with clarity and the support that they need. Let's foster collaboration and build an ecosystem across the government, across the industry and private players, corporates, academia, and civil society, and commit to building a system that's inclusive, intelligent, and inspired by every citizen's dream. Let's not treat illness. Let's build an India with health. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, next up we have a very power-packed discussion, which is also very aptly titled. It's called Reimagining Healthcare, Access, innovation, and global leadership. Three words that we, in fact, have heard right from the start of these presentations and almost everyone who's come on stage today. So without wasting any more time, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the moderator of this session. Join me in welcoming Shireen Bhan, the managing editor at CNBC-TV18. Shireen, please do join us.
So let me start by asking you, in light of the experience of putting together the Ayushman Bharat program, a flagship scheme of the government that was really designed to solve for the access problem, the access deficit issue that faces Indian healthcare. What have been the biggest lessons? What have been the biggest learnings from that? As we look ahead, what would you now like to see being designed into the program?
You know, Ayushman Bharat was launched in 2018. And if we just look at the scorecard of the scheme, I think probably we can be quite proud of that because more than 10 crore treatments have been given. And every year, the scheme is providing 2.5 crore treatments. And there are a huge number of studies to show that it has saved millions of families from falling into poverty. But coming to your point that what else can be done, you know, if you look at the scheme, we see still a large inequities in terms of different states. Southern states, western states, their rate of utilization is much higher, and northern and eastern states still need to catch up. Also, there's the issue of this missing middle, the large number of people who are still not part of any scheme. They're not rich enough to afford private insurance, but not poor enough to be eligible for Ayushman Bharat, so we need to focus on those. But the biggest constraint is this continuum of care, you know, this linkage between primary and preventive health care. And unless we focus on strengthening our preventive and primary health care, probably the scheme is not going to be sustainable.
Dr. Thuran, you know, in the context of what we're seeing happen as far as private healthcare is concerned, and private healthcare, to be fair, in India has solved the access deficit problem for the paying population, for a large majority of people who can pay for healthcare. Do you believe that the missing middle is going to find it even harder to be able to access private healthcare in the future?
You know, like everything else, it has its own hazards in the sense that it is amazing and it's really heartwarming to see people who would not be able to access healthcare and always be scared of actually about how much it's going to cost, because you know the data that 4% of people before Ayushman came were pushed down from above poverty line to below poverty line per year, so that you can imagine what kind of burden it was for the poor people. Now the question is that they do have a sort of a support system which can take them anywhere. I mean, when I see somebody who never have been able to walk into the doors and come in and get a bypass surgery, it is really, really something that has happened. So, I mean, it's a great scheme. Inder has been the champion of it or creator of it. The final detailing he did.
Yes.
And that's the amazing part. But what is the bad side of it? It has been hijacked by many, many, many people and states. It has become like a political tool some places. So you will see people coming out of Mercedes, diamonds dripping with a Ayushman card. So these are all dispensations done for political reasons. And so I think that we have to have proper regulation and some checks and balances where we know that where it's intended to go, it reaches there rather than being hijacked from on the way. So I think it's a challenge all around. We all must play together. It's the patient first, it's the providers, and then there are the insurers. Whether it's government or whether it's private sector, it has to be aligned in a way that it is all focused towards the patient's care, not so much that profiteering or things like that.
You know, you're absolutely right, Dr. Trayan, that it is not an India-specific problem. It is a global challenge. The health crisis or the healthcare crisis is a global challenge. And we're trying to see solutions from an Indian context. And Uma, that's what I want to address with you. You know, what do you believe with the use of technology, with the use of data that we now have, with the public-private partnership examples that we've spoken of through the course of this evening, what should the next chapter look like in trying to find unique Indian solutions to addressing the healthcare challenge?
If you look at what the problems facing healthcare are, they seem to be pretty similar with different colors. I mean, I'd simply say access, and I'll talk about access in two parts. One is the actual access to healthcare when you need it. The second, with the current development of technology and with customers taking their healthcare journeys into their own hands.
Yes, chat GPT, your way to health.
Yes, it's your own personal doctor. The access to information regarding health and their own health journeys, right? So that is still a big challenge. In the Indian context, both Dr. Bhushan and Dr. Trehan spoke about how we're enabling access to actual care when patients need it. But from a customer journey and from a technology and an innovation perspective, I think a couple of things. The technology now, I mean, what we saw today, everything comes with an AI opportunity. But the ability to access and provide the right amount of information, guidance, immediate access, not entirely the end-to-end spectrum, but at least the initial access. We saw a phygital model, which in the Indian context would be interesting. It's not 100% digital model, it's a phygital. So the ability to access and use it, whether we use telemedicine, whether we use apps and scans and all of that. But that, I think, we're seeing some very interesting innovations from the Indian context, right? So I think the Indian context, our opportunity is huge, and our ecosystem for startups, I think, can make a huge difference, but need to integrate it into the wider health ecosystem.
No, absolutely. We do need that integration with the wider ecosystem. We saw examples of what young companies are doing at this point in time. But Dr. Indubhushan, as you sort of have experienced healthcare for yourself, but also designing healthcare for the country via many flagship missions, including, of course, the Ayushman Bharat mission, from the private sector's point of view and from the government's point of view, and we keep talking about this private-public partnership, many experiments have actually been very successful. Some have fallen by the wayside. Building on these successful ones, what do you think the government should focus on to get the private sector to work more closely with it to try and deliver the outcomes that we're hoping for?
Ayushman Bharat, PMJ, was the first government scheme where private sector was actually involved very closely. Before that, most of the government scheme, or I would say all government schemes, were being implemented by government itself. But I think as a next step, probably government should also try to get private sector for preventive and promotive healthcare, because that's a scheme, that's where private sector actually has not been very active. And right now, if you look at Ayushman Bharat, we are paying hospitals for treating disease, but not for wellness. And there could be incentive systems where we can co-opt private sector for providing preventive health. So I think next step should be like picking up on this from disease treatment to wellness. We need to get private sector more closely involved in terms of ensuring wellness and providing incentive for that wellness.
Honoring the event with his presence was the Union Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Minister of Minority Affairs, Shri Kiran Rijiju, who delivered a compelling keynote address, which was followed by a fireside chat with News 18's Managing Editor Amish Devgan.
Thank you so much, Riju Saab, for coming here. आपका बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद और सबसे important session है ये evening का. What is your take on startup ecosystem of India? क्योंकि हम तीसरे से पहले नंबर पर कैसे पहुंचेंगे? That's a big question.
देखिए स्टार्टअप का तो आप मालूम है 2014 से पहले तो बिल्कुल नहीं के बराबर थे. प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने जब स्टार्टअप का एक पुश दिया, आज इतना बड़ा इकोसिस्टम बन गया है हमारे देश में. By virtue of being the most populous nation,
we are bound to be up there, but our potentials were never unleashed. But in last 11 years, I feel that our young generation are showing their talents, their potentials, and they're getting platforms. So the ecosystem which Prime Minister has created in the country is showing the result. And आगे जाएगा, हम number 3 से 1-2 का रास्ता बंद नहीं है हमारे लिए.
चलते चलते मैं 2 सवाल आपसे पूछना चाहूँगा. आप हेल्थ स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम को किस दिशा में जाते हुए देखते हैं? क्योंकि ये जो मंच है इसने बहुत लोगों को प्रेरणा दी है. आप क्या कहना चाहते हैं?
मैं तो खुद ही हेल्थ के मामले में बहुत ही जागरूक रहता हूँ और हेल्थ सेक्टर के लिए सचमुच में सिर्फ सरकारी नहीं, प्राइवेट सेक्टर ही नहीं, पूरा जनता को आंदोलन के रूप में इसको लेना चाहिए. और सचमुच इंडिया को अगर फिट रहना है तो हमको स्वस्थ रहना होगा. और हेल्थ सेक्टर का जो स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम है उसको बहुत बड़ा बल देना होगा. प्राइम मिनिस्टर तो आप देखते ही हैं कि हर मुकाम पर, हर प्लेटफॉर्म में जब भी मौका मिलता है तो हेल्थ सेक्टर को एलिवेट करने के लिए, हमारे समाज को जोड़ने के लिए कितना कदम उठाया है. और आपका आज का शो नेटवर्क 18, आपका चैनल 18 ने जो इस हेल्थ को लेकर के अपना जो डेडिकेशन किया है आज का इवनिंग, मैं आपको भी बधाई देता हूँ, आपके पूरे टीम को भी बधाई देता हूँ.
थैंक यू सो मच सर. आपने मोटिवेट करा बड़े सारे यंग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को यहाँ पर. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर कमिंग टू नेटवर्क 18. थैंक यू सो मच रिजिजू जी.
Post the dialogue, the Honourable Minister felicitated the Optum India presents CNBC-TV18 HealthX Elevate Startups Batch of 2025. Recognizing the exemplary work that is poised to redefine the Indian healthcare sector.
Ladies and gentlemen, now let's put our hands together for Bryota Technologies Private Limited for bringing AI-powered screening to make non-communicable disease detection affordable and accessible for all. Let's give it up for the team as we welcome them on stage, please. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to put your hands together for No Worry, No Tension Healthcare Private Limited for their AI-powered mental wellness app. Let's have a huge round of applause as we welcome the team on stage, please. Up next, ladies and gentlemen, is Linek Technologies Private Limited, making diagnostic imaging portable and affordable with India's first handheld X-ray innovation. Let's have a huge round of applause for the team, please. Let's keep the applause and the momentum going, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome Vigor's Health Tech Private Limited for enabling smarter care via AI-powered healthcare management app. Let's have a huge round of applause as we welcome the team on stage, please. Up next, ladies and gentlemen, is Primary Health Tech Private Limited for developing MobiLab, a portable AI-powered diagnostic lab. Let's have a huge round of applause as we welcome the team on stage. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite Geo Innovation Private Limited for turning rural pharmacies into digital health hubs with their AI-enabled Geo Mitra e-clinics. Let's have a huge round of applause. Now, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming InfiHeal Health Tech Private Limited for developing Hilo, India's first multilingual AI therapist that is enabling 24/7 accessible and affordable support. Let's give it up for the team, please. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's put our hands together for our next startup, Pratibha HealthEcon Private Limited, for developing HealthEcon, an intelligent, connected care ecosystem that really bridges the last mile gap from prevention to rehab. Let's keep the momentum going as now we welcome Platanoid Technologies Private Limited for redefining telehealth at scale with its Myrex platform. Let's have a huge round of applause, please. And ladies and gentlemen, our final starter for the HealthX Elevate batch of 2025. Please join us in welcoming WizFizz AI Private Limited for developing Vizio, an AI-powered physiotherapy app for providing personalized and guided recovery through smart tracking. Let's have a huge round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen.